Welcome to Massive Beers. My name is Matt. We do the beer stuff here. Barleywine is on the menu. Not just any barley wine. The cheapest barley wine I've ever seen in my life. Komes. I'm pretty sure I've had something from these people before. I don't remember what, but I forget when I purchased this. It was probably before Christmas even. I was out and about and I just saw this. I was like, oh, barley wine. And I looked on the price tag. It was like $2.99 or something, like $3 for the bottle of a 12% barley wine. And I kind of gotta, you know? So yeah, here we go on like budget. Budget you're talking about for a $16 for 500 milliliter barley wine. Anyway, it says Komes barley wine. Barley wine style ale, 12% alcohol by volume. It is a product of Poland. I think maybe I've done like their porter or something like that. I can't remember. Rich and malty character. Intense aroma. Those are the notes. Let's see. Ooh, banging stuff. It says here, product of Poland, barley wine style ale. Komes barley wine is a top fermented beer with a very rich, intense aroma and a complex taste, which malty sweetness perfectly harmonizes with a well-marked but smooth bitterness. So is it American barley wine? When Komes is stored for 36 months, the beer changes its taste. Now you can decide on how long your Komes will mature. So they actually have like this, like actual like an aging chart on the back here, which is pretty interesting. They say it's going to get fresh and malty to dry and complex is their chart. They're talking about 36 months, so you're talking about 12 years. This has a date. It has a lot number on it, which is 59/44/22/1. I'm guessing it's from 2022. That would be my guess. I don't know. I don't see an actual date on this sucker, unless it's obvious and I'm missing it. So if we just go by that, we're in 2024, but we're in January, almost February 2024. So let's say, for the sake of conversation, the middle of 2022. We're talking about 20-ish months. So we're about give or take, we're halfway too dry and complex. We'll see what's what. So let's crack the sucker open. See what's going on. Nice little hiss on it. And not gonna lie to you, kind of exactly what I want barley wine to look like. So we're off to actually a really good start, at least visually. Label-wise, it's all right. It's purple. It's really hard for you to even see. You can see it from the reflection. It's a dark metallic purple on like a black kind of label. I'm not gonna say I hate it. Obviously, it drew my eye a bit, but at the same time, it definitely looks something like kind of like macro European is the kind of vibe I'm getting from it. But that beer, that is exactly what I want barley wine to look like. For me, old ale barley wine, just as dirky. It's called dark and murky when you combine them together. Dark and murky, rich, dare I say it, doo-doo water. Iced tea like kind of vibe to it. It just has that murk. The original haze, the original hazy beers, a wheat beer, but a lot of times people don't refer to darker beers as hazy, and your Belgian darks, your barley wines. For me, there's a lot that are very, very clear. The ones that are actually hazy, they have those rich, drawn out kind of proteins to them. Those are the ones that really kind of slap. So this is definitely off to a very good start. So it looks all the part of what I want barley wine to look like. Let's get a nose. Not too shabby. It has this nice rich maltiness character to it. There's a big, huge tannic tea-like hoppiness. So I think it actually is an English barley wine in core, but I think it's a very aggressively hopped English barley wine because I'm not getting, resinous or even an old school C kind of hop. It's very much Kent Goldings, very much fuggly in the way the hop kind of comes off here, but it's very big, very tannic, very tea-like. There's a nice maltiness to it. It wants to get the sugar daddy level, but it's not quite there yet. And it smells like barley wine, like BJCP classified kind of barley wine. Not too shabby. I don't think it's going to be an overtly sweet beer. At least the precursor is what you typically get from a sweetness on aromatics. Not really there, but has a rich maltiness to it. See what you're doing there? And that's that big, like, tea, like, tannic vibe are the big two takeaways I take from it. So, let's just dive right in. Cheers, y'all. It's barley wine. It's barley wine. Like, again, English BJCP barley wine to a T. It's actually not too shabby. There is a metallic astringency to it. I tend to get that on darker beers that tend to run in that 6 to 8% range. Obviously, we're dealing with something that's twice this ABV, but I'm getting this metallic astringency from it. So I don't know if that's a water thing, an equipment thing, a processes thing. It's not crazy big, but it's there. Don't know why I always lean heavily on the negative when I first start it, start these beers if I do get something negative, because as a whole, this is really not a bad barley wine. It's got a really beautiful mouthfeel to it. Nice, lush, full mouthfeel that leans into a spicy maltiness, almost like there's a rye involved at some point. So it's almost like a rye wine as opposed to a regular barley wine. But I think that's mostly coming from that huge dose of a tannic hoppiness. I'm absolutely blown away by the amount of hops in here. You know, typically when you're talking about a hyper aggressive hop barley wine, you automatically lean towards an American barley wine. And while this has shades of that to it, it definitely has the vibes of American barley wine. The hops here are strictly European old school hoppiness. Again, Golding, Fuggle. We keep leaning into those because that's really what I'm getting here. This is a big, huge, herbal tea-like kind of hoppiness, but at an American barley wine level. Or even a hyper fresh English style barley wine. But again, we're assuming a lot of numbers here, but I'm guessing this is, a year and a half old, give or take. But it's still big and boisterous in that point. The malt comes off quite nice. It's rich. Again, want to lean into... It wants to become that sugar daddy level of barley wine that I love and adore. It does come off a little bit brown sugary. Nothing too crazy. It's not even close to being overly sweet for what you'd expect from a 12, 13, 14% kind of barley wine. It's just the biggest knock on it would be that metallic astringency, and really, I guess the biggest thing about this beer, the biggest takeaway for me, at least when it comes to this beer, is time. I really want to try this hyper fresh. I'd be really curious to see where this beer lands and what it shows as hyper fresh. I want one of these with like 10, 15 years on it, really badly. I want this with very long haul aging on it, because I could see this turning into something very, very special. Because I think it has the heft, the beef to it, and the way those tannic hops, how big and boisterous those tannic hops are. I could see this being like something quite special as a long haul ager. I think maybe that metallic astringency wears off. I think the mouthfeel should probably hold on this. Those hops and ABV will keep it, strong. And I think, it could turn sideways. You can have a bunch of different things happen with beer with age. That's the name of the game when it comes to aged beer. But I could see this being like an ultra super surprise. Like I would have no issues buying a case of this and letting it sit for a long, long time, because it's so cheap. You're talking about, a 500 ml bottle. Buy a case of this. What is it? I got it for whatever. Well, let's say I got it for $3.90. $4 for sake. So you're probably getting a case for half that. It's probably coming in a 16. I would assume in a case. You're talking $30, $40 for a case of barley wine. That's insane. That's insane. I think I might do that. I think I might do that because I could see this, and honestly, it's not a joke. It's not hyperbole, for me to say I think this would be something special in 10 to 15 years. I say that sometimes people go, ha ha ha, 10 to 15. And I'm like, no. I'm being dead serious about it. I think this is it going to be an old stock hard used JWs? I don't know. It doesn't have, I don't have the history with this beer to really kind of fall on that, but I could see it turn into something quite nice. As far as the flavor goes, rich maltiness, cherry notes, fruited notes, fruit cakey notes. that burnt brown sugar wanting to become a sugar daddy. Big, huge tea-like, tannic-like hops. Nice, rich mouthfeel to it. And just that little bittering, little metallic astringency thing that I think could die off with some time, or even blow off if you actually let it kind of breathe for a little bit. It's not a shabby beer. Is it the best barley wine I've ever had? No. Is it Mount Rushmore status barley wine? No. Is it one of the more interesting, especially taking in the price point of the beer, it's one of the more interesting barley wines I've had as like, yeah. Yeah, because at this price point, at the price point for what you're getting per ounce, because it's a bigger bottle, so a 12-ounce bottle, it's just an interesting concept. I've seen some other larger format Komes, Belgian influence stuff like that. I really want to dive into that, see if there's any kind of like cost value thing here, because it's my first foray into what they're doing, and I'm just interested to see how these beers, these larger ABV beers, would age, but also what your experiences are for them. So yeah, definitely not Mount Rushmore status, but a fun beer nonetheless. Value and availability. I got it off shelf for ultra cheap, and leave you with it if you like what we like this. If you like barley wine, BJCP, period, and you're not really susceptible to that metallic astringency that I am, I tend to get that again on darker beers, usually lower ABV, but I think it's kind of like carbonic acid for me. I think I'm a little bit more susceptible than most people. So yeah, there you go. A little bit of Komes up in this piece. Barley wine. What are your thoughts? Have you had this beer? Have you had it aged? Have you had it fresh? What are your thoughts on Komes in general? I know it's probably a bargain basement thing for a lot of different people, but I'm curious your thoughts. So all that fun stuff down there. So hopefully you enjoyed the review. Hopefully you're enjoying a little bit of barley wine right now. Hopefully see you next time. Cheers, y'all.